The movie begins with a woman named Dr. Susan, who works for a pharmaceutical company and is engaged in research to cure a disease. However, the company's owners tell her to stop the research, as no results have been achieved so far, and it has cost them a lot of money. Susan pleads with them to give her just 2 more days, and promises that she will deliver results within that time. Next, we see Susan taking one of the owners to the research facility, which is located in the middle of the ocean. A marine biologist welcomes the owner and gives him a tour of the center. The owner sees a man in the water named Carter, who takes care of the sharks. The owner is impressed by him. The biologist explains that the shark in view is a regular one. The real research subjects, the enhanced sharks, are much larger and kept separately. Susan shows the owner around the facility and explains that there are 3 levels. The top level is where the team lives. The second level contains the lab and the sharks. And the third level has an airlock chamber where close-up shark research is conducted. Soon, it is revealed that Susan had been working with a special protein found in the shark's brain. Sharks never suffer from vision problems, and their brain function does not deteriorate with age. Then, we see a cook preparing food on the first level. At night, when Carter goes to feed the sharks, he notices something alarming. The larger sharks are eating the smaller ones. He immediately warns Susan and advises that the research should be approached with more caution. But Susan ignores the concern and says, "If we don't do this by tomorrow, the whole facility will be shut down. We don't have much time." In the control room, the chief operator receives a weather warning. A storm is approaching. The team starts preparing for it. That evening, Carter brings one of the large sharks into the lab through a tunnel and sedates it. The shark is massive. The doctors scan the shark, and later, Dr. Susan extracts the brain protein and uses it on a patient suffering from Alzheimer's. Within seconds, the patient shows signs of recovery. This means the research is a success, and they have achieved the desired results. However, as the doctors observe the shark, it suddenly regains consciousness and bites off one of the doctor's hands. Blood gushes out. Carter tries to shoot the shark, but Susan stops him. Meanwhile, the control room operator calls for help. A helicopter arrives and attempts to airlift the injured doctor on a stretcher. But due to the strong storm, the helicopter becomes unstable. The rope snaps, and the doctor falls into the water. A shark grabs and pulls him down. The helicopter then crashes into the control tower, causing an explosion. The control room operator also dies in the blast. The explosion was so massive that the entire research facility shook. The boats and the planes stored nearby were also destroyed. The shark, still holding the stretcher, enters the lab and starts smashing it against a mirror. When the mirror cracks, water begins flooding into the lab. The team barely escapes. The lab is completely submerged, and they try to reach the second level, only to find that the staircase is also flooded. The elevator wasn't working either. They had no other way to get to the surface. Meanwhile, the cook was still on the first level and saw the water rising. A shark had entered that area too. Dr. Susan and the others searched desperately for an escape route. They noticed that a shark was trying to break down a door, and within moments it succeeded. Water rushed in through the broken door. They reached a safe area, but the owner couldn't understand how any of this was possible. How could a shark be so intelligent? Carter didn't know either. At that moment, the owner turned to Susan and asked, "Tell me the truth. Why are the sharks acting like this? What did you do in the research?" Susan then admitted that extracting protein was difficult due to the shark's small brains. So, with the help of another doctor, she had illegally used genetic engineering to enlarge the shark's brains in order to extract more protein, and that's what made the sharks intelligent. Meanwhile, the cook was now being chased by a shark on the first level. He took shelter in the kitchen. As soon as the shark saw him, it broke in. The cook climbed on top of a shelf and saw his pet bird. He tried to save it, but the shark ate the bird. Terrified, the cook fell to the ground. The shark came after him again, but this time he hid inside the oven. The shark almost caught him, but the gas inside the oven turned on. The cook broke open the door, ran to a safe distance, and threw a lighter into the oven. It exploded,
blowing the shark to pieces. Carter and the others reached the submarine room, only to find that it had also been flooded in the explosion. They were all terrified, and the engineer started arguing with Dr. Susan because he was afraid. But the owner said, "You shouldn't be afraid. We need to work as a team. That's the only way we can get out of here." Before he could finish speaking, a shark appeared from the pool behind them. 2 sharks attacked and devoured the owner. Everyone panicked and ran to escape that level. The pressure from the pool caused water to flood into the room. Carter and the engineer managed to seal the door. Then they tried to reach the first level, but the shark had already gotten there. It began smashing through the door and chased after them. That's when Carter had an idea. He opened the door to the second level so the water would flow down. This would give them more time to climb up. They began climbing the ladder to the top, but suddenly the ladder broke and the biologist fell into the water. Carter tried to help him, but before he could, a shark grabbed the biologist and ate him. Seeing this, the group was devastated. They were now trapped. The door to the first level was too high, and the ladder was destroyed.
Just then, the cook arrives and helps them escape. Later, Carter says, "We're now 60 feet underwater. If we activate the emergency pump right now, the water in the stairwell will drain." Carter and the engineer go to activate the pump. But as soon as the pump is turned on, a shark appears and devours the engineer. It rips him into 2 pieces. Terrified, Carter runs and barely manages to escape through a door. Meanwhile, Dr. Susan tells the cook, "I need to go to my room. I have to retrieve my research data." The entire place was already flooded. She somehow manages to reach her room and collect the data. At that moment, a shark approaches. She climbs onto a shelf to try to survive. In the process, the data slips from her hand and falls into the water. The shark lunges at her, and in desperation, she grabs an electric cable and forces it into the shark's mouth. The shark is electrocuted and dies, but the data is also destroyed in the process. Elsewhere, Carter manages to reach the first level through another route. The cook realizes that the engineer is dead. After a while, they enter a chamber and activate a switch, which increases the pressure upward. The shark becomes disoriented, and they're able to rise to the surface. But just then, the shark grabs the cook's leg. He strikes the shark in the eye with the locket around his neck, and the shark releases him. Carter sees that the cook has surfaced and pulls him out of the water. Dr. Susan quickly provides first aid. By now, the entire research facility is submerged. Carter says, "Now I understand why all of this is happening. The shark is trying to escape beyond the fencing." Susan also realizes her mistake and tells Carter, "End this shark." Meanwhile, the shark begins ramming against the fence to break through. Carter shows up with a dynamite-loaded harpoon gun. He says to Susan, "Attach the wire to the battery. When I hit the shark, there'll be an explosion and it will be over." Carter fires the shot, but the shark is still too far away and nearly breaks through the fence. Then, Susan cuts her hand with a piece of glass and jumps into the water, hoping the smell of blood will lure the shark toward her. It works. The shark turns and charges at her. Carter runs to save her. Susan grabs a ladder to climb out, but it breaks and she falls back into the water. The shark grabs her and kills her. Carter jumps in, trying to save her. The shark then attacks him too. Carter grabs hold of the shark tightly, but it swims violently, trying to escape. Meanwhile, the cook reaches the harpoon gun and takes aim at the shark. Carter yells, "Connect the wire to the battery, now!" The cook quickly attaches the wire. At that moment, a massive explosion takes place. The shark is blown to pieces. The cook is overjoyed to see that Carter is still alive. Carter swims over, and the two finally take a moment to rest. And that's how the movie ends.